Hey everyone, Chris of Midlife Crisis Media here. Welcome to the Next Film Collection 2024 live stream. Today I'm talking about all of the Blu-Rays that are in my physical media collection currently that begin with the letter G. So, haven't been able to shave the dome. I'm a little out of breath because I was running from my car. Traffic was absolutely horrible. It took me almost an hour to get home tonight. I don't understand why. Barely, I had no time to get ready. Basically ran in, turned my computer on, grabbed all the stuff. So I apologize for being a little bit late tonight. Anyway, so like I said, today we're talking about everything that starts with the letter G in my Blu-ray collection. It's going to be a shorter stream because if I added the H movies into this stream, it would be super long because I have a ton of H's. So I was like, I'll just do the G's separate. This one can be a shorter stream because the H's are going to be a little crazy. I got a lot of movies in the H letter. So let's just plow through these real quick, shall we? So we'll start off with one of my favorite films. That is Galaxy Quest. So this is an unofficial Star Trek movie. It's basically, at the same time, it's making fun of classic Star Trek. It's also kind of honoring it, which is why I like it so much. It finds the worth in it and what could possibly be made to rag on it. So this came out in '99, Christmas Day. I went and saw it Christmas Day with a group of friends and my brother. And I don't think we knew what we were getting into. We were just kind of like, yeah, that looks like a fun little science fiction comedy kind of thing. It's the only thing that started that day that we thought looked at least remotely interesting. So we went and saw it and we all loved it. So it has Tim Allen, who's basically playing a Captain Kirk stand-in, complete with like the ego and everything off screen. Sigourney Weaver is playing like the bombshell stupid character who has really no purpose on the ship. So before I do that, I should probably explain. So this movie is about a bunch of actors who are on a Star Trek style science fiction series that was on, I think, according to the movie, in the 80s. that was like kind of popular, then got canceled, and kind of like Star Trek did in syndication. It got really popular. And the aliens, real aliens, saw the transmissions of that show and thought that it was like a real broadcast of heroism, and come to ask the actors to help them conquer a real alien threat that they are facing. And the actors are just kind of like, huh? We're actors. What do you want us to do? So like I said, Tim Allen is essentially playing William Shatner / Captain Kirk. Sigourney Weaver is kind of playing... She doesn't really have a stand-in in the original Star Trek series. It's kind of like an original thing where she basically just repeats what the computer says on the show, so she really has no purpose on the ship. And there's a real big joke, big moment for her character where she realizes that. And Alan Rickman plays the Spock-style character who's like taking it super seriously, because the character is a super serious actor and he takes everything super seriously, but having to go through all the convention circuits and the store openings with that headgear on for his alien character has kind of wore him down over the years. And a bunch of other characters come and go as well. It is super funny. It is clever. It rags on Star Trek, like I said, in great fashion, and it also honors it at the same time, like I said. I absolutely love it. It is super fun. There's a couple of things I wish they never cut out. There's some stuff that they cut out to make it PG-13 because it almost got an R rating. Not for gore or anything like that. It was for like subject matter and language. So Tony Shalhoub plays the Scotty-style character. He's like the engineer. And it's like a normal dude pretending to play an Asian character. So the whole movie, he's kind of like squinting when he's on screen. And I don't know if that would fly nowadays. But outside of the show, his character is always high, but they cut out every single reference in the movie about him smoking pot. So if you watch him in the movie, he's always carrying around a paper bag, and they make it kind of look like he's like carrying around his lunch, but in reality, it was a paper bag full of pot. He was like always high, and they cut out all those references. So like the stuff of him kind of like doing weird stuff in the backgrounds or answering people strangely was supposed to be up to the fact that he was, high as hell, but they cut all that out to get to get a PG-13 rating. And then there's one part at the end where Sigourney Weaver and Tim Allen are trying to make their way through the bowels of the ship to get to this device that's buried in like the bottom of the ship. And there's like these crushers they have to get through, and you can plainly see, there's no question about it, that she looks at it and she goes, well, fuck that. But they dub over it with her saying, screw that, so they can get a PG-13 rating. I wish they left all that stuff in. There's even a scene where when Tim Allen's character is being chased by this giant rock creature down on this planet, and the people back on the ship are trying to figure out how to beat it, and Alan Rickman's character starts to think, he's like, I need to think like the rock character. Why am I angry? Why am I trying to kill Tim Allen? You see him go through like the acting process, getting in the headspace of the rock creature. And then he realizes, oh, I'm a rock. Vibrations are driving me crazy. Every time he screams, it's driving me crazy. I want to stop the pain. So kill him. I wish they left that in as well, because it made sense. It made the character make more sense. Like it gave him something to do. I thought but outside of that, this is a great flick. Absolutely love it. And here is a very underrated movie by David Fincher. I remember, because of Seven being one of my favorite films of 95, the moment this was announced with a really cool teaser trailer, I was like, I don't care if it gets the worst reviews of all time. I am going to be there opening weekend. And I was, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And that is The Game. This stars Michael Douglas and Sean Penn and Kara Unger, I think her name is. Deborah Unger. So the idea behind this is Michael Douglas plays this obscenely rich dude who lives by himself. He's a big asshole, treats everybody like shit. And he has a brother who is kind of like a troublemaker, and he's always asking, Michael Douglas's character for money, that kind of thing. But he's always in some scheme, or he's always, in trouble with the law or whatever. And all of a sudden, Michael Douglas finds himself like with his house has been burglarized, and next thing you know, all of his credit cards are canceled. And it's like somebody's trying to steal his life away from him, kind of thing. And he's trying to figure out who and why. And everything just starts to escalate over and over and over again. Like he goes to this company I think it was for a game. So his brother comes to visit him and says like, "Hey, your birthday's coming up. I want to get you a present." He goes, "I'm going to sign you up for this game thing," and he goes to get like a physical done and gives them a bunch of personal information, and then all those people steal his identity and his money and everything. So it's him trying to get it back. But is everything what it seems? That's the big question. And it is like a puzzle, and that's what the trailers make it look like. Even the poster was a picture of a puzzle being taken apart of Michael Douglas's face. The teaser trailer that I was talking about is just a bunch of audio clips from the movie of people talking, and like it starts to escalate as well. You hear Michael Douglas start saying like, "Why are you doing this?" and stuff. And the image you're seeing is like a wooden marionette puppet with like no features on it. It's just like hanging in the air, and you can see the strings holding it up. And then it starts to like twitch, and then it starts like looks like it's trying to like break the strings, but someone is pulling it back, and it just starts swinging all over the place. And it's like someone is like being dangled on a string kind of thing while all these horrible things are happening to them and they can't do anything about it. I thought it was a great teaser trailer. And the movie ends up being absolutely fantastic. I wish I could. This is one of those movies I wish I could unsee so I could see it again because of all the twists and stuff. Like now, there's no surprises left. But I wish I could unsee it so I could watch it again for the first time. But it's absolutely fantastic, and it's the Criterion Collection edition on Blu-ray. I hope we get a 4K upgrade, and it also comes with like a book with a bunch of like an essay about the movie. Who is it written by? That's the question. By David Sterrett. Yep. Fantastic flick. Very underrated. Out of all the Fincher movies, nobody talks about this or Zodiac. What's up, Retro Coop? Next up, we have, I think, one of the most underrated comedies I've ever seen. Another one that, even I think my brother said this, that he wishes he could unsee this so he could watch it again for the first time, and that is Game Night. So when this came out theatrically, I had zero interest in it because I'm like, it's like a stupid little comedy about, a game that gets out of hand, whatever. But my brother went and saw it with his, at the time, girlfriend, and he I remember we got into a conversation, he started talking about it, he's like, dude, it is so funny. What movie was before what? Before The Game? Or Galaxy Quest? Oh, The Game? Yeah, the Michael Douglas movie. So this one is about a group of friends, married friends who, one of them is always dating somebody different. That's like another joke in the movie. That get together every Friday night for game night. Jason Bateman's character has a brother who is like an overachiever and everybody loves him. Jason Bateman can't stand him. And he decides to hey, I'm going to up the game of your game night. We're going to do one of those like mysteries where someone comes to the house and says that there's a case that needs to be solved and there's going to be clues and you're going to have to get in your car and go to all these different places and try to find clues and whatnot. But it turns out to be real. It turns out that the older brother, the one that everybody loves, is actually in trouble with some gangsters, and they actually came for him that night, and it's real stakes kind of thing, and it is so funny at certain points. Like, there's some graphic stuff that happens in it, but it's done in kind of a weird comedic way that I absolutely love it. It has some great lines that I still quote to this day. I absolutely love this one. I saw this in the theater, and I want to say maybe 3 weeks after it came out, and I was the only person in the theater, and I was dying at times. There's a scene where Rachel McAdams and Jason Bateman think that they are threatening a bunch of actors who are actually real gangsters with a gun. They think it's a fake gun, but it's actually a real gun. And they're threatening him. They got him down on the floor, and they're like, put your hands out, no quick movements or I'll cap you kind of stuff. And they're making jokes about it. And Rachel McAdams accidentally shoots the gun, and it goes off, and it hits Jason Bateman in the forearm. And he goes ow. And then he kind of looks at it, and the camera kind of zooms in on his arm, and you see there's a hole in his arm. And he's just kind of looking at it, and all of a sudden it just starts shooting blood out. And I was dying, and he starts screaming like a girl and stuff. And they end up going to a convenience store and buying stuff off the shelf to sew it together. And Rachel McAdams is like, "Oh yeah, I think I saw something about how to do a certain sewing technique that could work for your arm." And he's like, "What? You're knitting a quilt on my arm?" kind of shit. It is so funny. I love it. It has a great cast too. It has a bunch of people from. Has one of the dudes from New Girl in it. the guy that played Winston, who I thought was one of the funniest characters on that show. I cannot remember his name right now. Lamorne Morris, I think it is. Billy Magnuson, who was in No Time to Die. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, Billy Magnuson, Shannon Horgan. Jesse Plemons, who's married to Kirsten Dunst. Michael C. Hall. And Kyle Chandler plays the older brother, the one that everybody likes. It is hysterically funny. It's a dark comedy. It's violent, but it's awesome. Okay, so if you watched my DVD stream, where I talked about the DVDs that I have in my collection, 2 of them had to do with this franchise called The Gamers. I have the original Gamers. It's more like a short film. And then a live performance that they did. So what The Gamers is, it's done by this group of filmmakers that while they were at college, they made a whole bunch of movies on campus, and they ended up calling their company Dead Gentleman Productions. And I guess they also played Dungeons and Dragons quite a bit while they were on campus. So they decided to make a movie, like a short film, that was all about like this group of people playing D&D. And as they're playing, we'll also see those people that are sitting around the table as their characters in the Dungeons and Dragons world doing what the other characters are saying is happening in the real world. And we actually see it play out in the D&D world. And it's fun. It's kind of dumb at times. It's not super funny. Most of all their movies have been comedies so far at that point. They made a whole bunch of them. I have a bunch of them in my collection. But it had potential. And eventually they got a budget. A couple of their movies, I think they put sell-through on their website, and I guess they got them some money together, and they were able to make a higher budgeted version of that, which is a sequel called The Gamers, Dorkness Rising. So it's most of the same actors, a couple of new ones. I think the same guy the guy that directed this directed the other one as well. And I think Demon Hunters 2 that they did. And this one is super clever, super funny. It's well acted. It's well written. You can tell the people that made the movie have played D&D multiple times. And it follows not only the people in the real world and some of their real world problem stuff aside from sitting at the table and playing D&D, as well as having them play their characters inside the game. And it is super, super funny. One male character in the real world plays a female character in the Dungeons and Dragons world. And sometimes it's this actress playing the part, and other times it's the guy in drag at certain times. And it is really funny when it like switches back and forth and actually like a scene, like the camera will cut away and it's the guy playing it, camera will cut away and it's the girl playing it. It's really funny the way it works. If you've ever played D&D, you're going to absolutely love it. Has a lot of great quotable lines. They bring in a new player into the game who's a ex-girlfriend of one of the characters that's playing already. And she kind of doesn't understand the way the rules work, but does she? So she creates a barbarian character who, instead of having, like, when she rolled up her character, did not put everything into strength like your typical barbarian would. She puts it all into agility. And everyone is giving her shit for it at the table. They're like, you are not playing a barbarian if you do not have, like, the high strength. If you're putting everything into agility, there's no point. And she's like, no, you'll see. And then the first fight that they have, she put all of her points into agility and a specific ability that her character could do, or a feat that they can do. So basically she always goes first because her agility is so high. She always rolls the highest on perception or initiative. So she always goes first. And every time she kills somebody on the first hit, she can basically take another turn to hit somebody else. And if she kills that person, she can keep on going. And that's basically the way the scene plays out, is all the other characters are standing there going like, can we fight? And you basically see her in the background going like, whack, dead. I get to kill someone else now. Whack, dead. And she's like, see, that's why you put all your points into agility. And then the monk character who was, made to fight is standing there and goes, yeah, but can you tumble? It's really funny. I showed this to Church, the Game Grinder, and Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming when I visited in Minnesota, was it 2 years ago? And they both really enjoyed it. So I like that one quite a bit. They made another one, a third one, that I have not seen, that kind of ditches the D&D aspect and focuses more on collectible card game stuff like Magic the Gathering. There's like in the movie world, the Dungeons and Dragons game that they play ended up coming out with a Magic the Gathering style card game, and they get into that. And I have not watched that one yet because I don't give a shit about collectible card games. And then, like I said, that I also have a DVD of a live performance that they did at Gen Con back in like 2015 or whatever it was, where basically all the actors from the movie are on stage and they took cues from the audience to put together a quick D&D game thing and acted it out as the characters, which is pretty cool. I wish I saw it, but I don't know. I think I was there that year. I just didn't know about it. Here's one of the first horror movies I ever saw in a movie theater, and the only reason I was able to see it was because it's PG-13 and my parents didn't give a shit. And it was $1. They took us to see it at the Dollar Theater. That's The Gate. So this is I think the first movie that Steven Dorff was ever in. You can see him on the back there. You know, the villain from the first Blade movie. And he finds out that he has a gate to hell in his backyard that was underneath where a tree was planted. His parents uproot a tree because they're digging out the backyard, and it turns out it was covering up the hole to hell. And while the parents are away for the weekend, all the little demonies kind of trying to come out and take over the world, and it's up to a bunch of little teen kids and, you know, preteens to stop it from happening. Power fantasy thing for little kids. I loved it. I think it still holds up pretty well. The effects are all stop motion, and they look pretty cool, especially when it was made on a pretty small budget. There are some forced perspective shots that you do not realize are fake until you see the making of the movie. And it's like, wow, they came up with some really cool stuff to cover up the fact that they had no money, and I love it. It has a pretty cool soundtrack. It's pretty gory. This is as close to getting to R-rated as you can possibly get for like a PG-13 horror movie. Because back in the day, I remember like seeing the trailers on TV, and I remember the trailers kind of scared me that I was seeing. And when we saw it in the Dollar Theater, I remember I was like one step away from saying like, I don't know if I want to sit through this because this is freaking me out a little bit. But I did, and it ended up being pretty cool. Now it's like one of my favorites. So The Gate's pretty rad. I even have a shirt of this artwork. And people ask, whenever I wear it, people ask me like, what the hell movie is that? Like, get on that. Well, it turned out to be popular enough that it got a sequel a few years later. The only actor that came back is the one who played the character Terry, who's the best friend of Steven Dorff's character, and his name is Louis Tripp. I don't think he did much after this. I think he actually became a demonologist or something after this. So after they sealed the gate in the first movie, the house became condemned because the house blew up at the end of the movie. The house became condemned. Steven Dorff's parents and family moved away. Lewis was left behind, and he's been using the remnants of the house to like hold seances to try to summon one of the demons, because he found out that if you can summon one of the little demon characters that were in the first movie, you can make a wish. And he's trying to get his dad back on his feet. His mother's dead. His father is an airline pilot, but he keeps on getting fired for being a drunk. So he's trying to like help his dad out by getting this wish that he wants to give to his father. And it turns out that whenever you make a wish with this demon, it kind of does the whole rabbit's paw thing, where it kind of flips back on you. And a bunch of local hoods interfere with the ritual and decide to make wishes of their own. And it starts to turn everybody into the like human-sized versions of the little demons and stuff. Like one character wants to be rich, and for like an hour and a half he is, but then they go to this really expensive restaurant and he goes to plop down the money, and as he's throwing the money down onto the table, it turns into literal shit and stuff. So it turns out that these people are the new gate that's going to open up the gates of hell so evil can take over. It's okay. I've seen this maybe 3 times in my life. I got this from the Scream Factory, not Shout Factory, Scream Factory clearance sale thing that they were doing like a couple of years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I got this for like $11. So even though I'm not that fond of this one when compared to the first one, I wanted to have it to just have both in the collection. It's not great. It's not that same people made it. It's just not nearly as good as the first. So here's one you either love it or you hate it, and that is Ghost in the Shell. This is the live-action remake of Ghost in the Shell in 3D. When it stars Scarlett Johansson. I love the original Japanese anime, the Japanimation movie. It's one of my all-time favorites. It's all cyberpunk as all hell, which is why I was excited when I saw this was coming out, because I love cyberpunk. And yeah, at first I was a little ticked off that they kind of whitewashed the movie It does take place in Japan, the original movie. And it's like, well, in order to make this in the U.S. and make it palatable for, Western audiences, of course they're going to have to recast it with somebody well-known and possibly Caucasian. There's actually an explanation as to why the character is Caucasian in the movie, which I did not think they were going to do. And I think that makes the movie pretty awesome that they do that. They knew that they were fucking up. They knew it when they were making it. They knew people were going to take issue to that. So they put an explanation in there as to why, which I thought was perfect. It does recreate a lot of classic scenes from not only the original animated movie, but the sequel that they did, Innocent, as well as the standalone Complex TV series. And like, it doesn't follow the plot exactly like from the original movie, but it has like big chunks of that movie in there that's been peppered with other Ghost in the Shell things in there. And I think it's actually really, really fun. I went and saw it on the IMAX in 3D on opening day. I went and saw it right after work. And I was maybe one of 3 people in that IMAX screening. And I had a smile on my face the whole time. Like, I think they got characters perfectly right. I love who they cast as Bateau, the Major, or Makoto, her sidekick, her partner. It's Pilou Asbæk, who was on Game of Thrones. And since his character in the anime already had cybernetic eyes, they never really told you what nationality he was. So the fact that he's like American in the movie and he has his eyes visible at the beginning of the movie, he has his natural eyes, but they get damaged during an action scene and he ends up having the cybernetic ones put in. I think it's kind of okay. And I love it. I absolutely love it. It's visually stunning at times. Like I said, it recreates some classic moments like the opening infiltration scene from the anime, and it's recreated here without the nudity, of course, because this is PG-13. And the 3D is actually pretty fantastic. I remember when this came out, when it was first released, I made damn sure that the version that I picked up was the 3D version because, like I said multiple times over the years, that I was really anticipating getting a 3D television at some point. And then it never happened because the 4K TV started to come out, and ended up having to watch this on my PSVR, which is not a bad time. So I'm glad that I have this. I will not sell that until like a 4K comes out, maybe. And then we have those, what were they called? Dark Castle films. So in the late 90s and early 2000s, what company was this? Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers created this like little sub company called Dark Castle Entertainment. The whole point was they're going to do big budget remakes of old William Castle movies from like the 50s and 60s. William Castle made these gimmicky horror movies like House on Haunted Hill. I think The Tingler might have been one, but a whole bunch of his movies were going to get remade. They already had the rights to them, and they're just going to do a whole slew of them in a row. Kind of like Tales from the Crypt movies. Didn't really take off the way they anticipated. The first one was House on Haunted Hill. That one I do believe made money. That one made money, and then I think they did 13 Ghosts after that, and that one kind of didn't. And then they made this. And I think this was an original film from them in the style of a William Castle movie, and that is Ghost Ship. This one stars Juliana Margulies, Ron Eldard, Desmond Harrington, Isaiah Washington, Gabriel Byrne. And this is produced by Robert Zemeckis and Gilbert Adler, the people behind the Tales from the Crypt TV show and the Tales from the Crypt movies. So you can see they kind of like jumped ship from the Tales from the Crypt franchise and kind of jumped into this Dark Castle thing thinking it was going to take off the same way. And just like the Tales from the Crypt movies, they kind of didn't, because they only made like 4 or 5 movies in this series, and then they quit. So this is about a bunch of, salvagers who find out about an old cruise ship that had disappeared for like a number of years. And it's kind of like Event Horizon, where it's like they thought it was gone, but it just kind of like reappears in the middle of the ocean, and they go to salvage it, and it turns out it's some horrible, horrible things happened there, and why it disappeared, and had to do with a bunch of like a mass murder on the boat, and kind of like a demonic thing going on at the same time. And all of the people that are on the salvage team get caught up in it, and it's kind of like happening again. And it does have a few issues. I mean, some of the things don't make sense, like the big reveal as to what's going on at the end and who the villain really is and what their deal is just kind of thrown at you in like this 30-second quick shot. And you're like, it's kind of like you're just expected to like accept it immediately and then move on. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But there is this really cool scene where you see like a flashback as to what happened. Because the movie opens up with the massacre scene, which is amazing. A bunch of people get like poisoned. A cable goes across the dance floor on the deck and cuts like everybody in half. That's like the big shot. And there's cops outside for some reason. And you don't see a lot of the other stuff that's going on. But in this like flashback scene, because there's this ghost character who was on the cover here, played by Emily Browning, who ended up being in Sucker Punch. And was it Lemony Snicket, the movie? She tells Juliana Margulies' character what happened, and you kind of see what happened past that opening slaughter scene and all the stuff that she saw as she was being like escorted by the killers through the hallways. And it's set to this really kind of cool industrial rap song, if that makes any sense. And I really like that scene, but then like the follow-up scene where they kind of tell you who the villain is and why they're doing what they're doing, it's just kind of like, oh, by the way, blam. Now let's keep going. And it makes like no sense. Outside of that, I like it quite a bit because the characters, Carl Urban is in this as well. Carl Urban played Judge Dredd and plays Bones in the Star Trek reboot movies, is in it. The coolest thing about the movie is all the people on the salvage crew, like all the actors, you can tell they all got along great. Because like when they're all talking amongst themselves and to each other, if they feel like real people. And that's one of the reasons why I like it so much, because the characters are really likable. And then when the bad stuff starts to happen, you kind of feel bad, which is the way a horror movie is supposed to work. It's just that it kind of like doesn't stick the landing. Outside of that, I think it's pretty cool. Next up is The Gift, which stars Jason Bateman, Rebecca Hall, Rebecca Hall, and Joel Edgerton. This is actually directed by Joel Edgerton, and I saw this on a plane going to visit my brother in LA. And I watched nothing but like thrillers, like dark thrillers and horror films to and from LA that one trip. And there was an older woman sitting to my left who I don't think really knew how to use the touchscreen interface on the little television that's like in the headrest of the seat in front of you when you're on these flights. So she basically imitated everything that I did. So I put on that, what was that movie called? Morgan, that stars Anya Taylor-Joy, where everyone thinks that she's like this murderous robot. I put that on, and she was like, oh, I'll just mimic what he's doing. And she put Morgan on, and I remember I could hear her on my left during the movie. Whenever like something horrible would happen, oh my goodness, why am I watching this kind of stuff? And I remember kind of giggling to myself, and then I put this on. And when the twists started to reveal themselves, I hear her going like, oh my goodness, I am not going to sleep for a week kind of stuff. So it's about a couple who seem to be pretty happy. And a new neighbor moves in, and it turns out to be somebody who Jason Bateman knew from, high school. And I guess he used to bully this person with a bunch of his other friends, horribly so. And Joel Edgerton's character is the one that was bullied, and he is trying to get back at Jason Bateman as an adult now that he has information on Jason Bateman that he can use against him. He's trying to like break his marriage up. And it's really twisted, and it's really well made and really well acted, and I was like pretty shocked at the end. It's pretty awesome. I did not think that Joel Edgerton had it in him to make a movie like this, seeing like the other movies he's made. I mean, he played the young Uncle Owen from Star Wars in Episode 3. You know, that was his big start. And he came back for the Obi-Wan TV show. But he turns out to be, he's a pretty fantastic director, and he's got a good style. So I felt like I needed to pick that up. I ended up getting it like half-price books for like $10 or something. I just had a conversation with Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming over the weekend. We had like a little hangout online together with Church the Game Grinder, and he was saying how much he hates this movie. I love this movie. It is the animated G.I. Joe, the movie. So this was made concurrently with the Transformers animated movie that came out in, I think, 86. But when the Transformers movie bombed, this was sent directly to television, and it was broken up into, I think, 5 parts, and then broadcast as like one big long episode of the show. So you got like 5. It was like every day for a week you would see like another chunk of it. And that's how I first saw it. I saw it on television being broadcast instead of the actual show. They were showing this in these chunks, and I was just kind of like, I really wish I saw this in the theater because this is kind of cool. So it's basically the same idea behind the Transformers animated movie, where you've got all the original Transformers characters that you know and love from the television show, and they're going to kill them all off so that they can replace them with new characters so they can sell a new group of toys. That was the whole idea behind the Transformers movie. Don't get me wrong, I love it. Same thing with this. All of the G.I. Joe characters that you know and love from the cartoon and the comics, they're going to kill 95% of them off in here and replace them with a whole bunch of new characters and a whole bunch of new villains, because they basically kill Cobra Commander in this. They almost killed Duke because of the backlash from the children when Optimus Prime dies in the original animated film. The idea behind this was Duke was going to die, but because of the backlash, they quickly animated a couple of scenes where Duke is not dead at the end. He was just in a coma to stop that from happening. But instead of having Cobra, like regular old Cobra, now you have Cobra La, which are like these actual reptilian and insectoid characters that like live deep in the earth. They're the new villains. And they were the ones who were responsible for the idea of making Serpentor. They gave it to Cobra Commander. Turns out Cobra Commander used to be one of the people that was in Cobra La, and he split it off and made just straight up Cobra. I like it. I think it's really fun. It's really fast-paced. It has a great soundtrack that's mostly from the TV show, but like the opening like title sequence, which has like this fantastic animation and this really cheesy but awesome song about G.I. Joe is fantastic. But I saw this in the theater, I want to say like 2 years ago. There was like an anniversary screening that Fathom was doing. And it turned out to be like the worst Fathom event I've ever been to, because while I'm holding a Blu-ray in my hand that actually has a great transfer and is really clean and is widescreen, the one that I saw on the movie screen at the theater was essentially like watching a full screen version of a VHS tape. It looked like crap. It sounded like crap. It was fuzzy. I was like, I paid $12 to watch a VHS tape broadcast to me. This is some bullshit. When I could have just basically run home, grabbed my Blu-ray, and handed it to the projectionist and says, how about you just project this instead? I was so pissed. You saw it as well. It was an epic week, yeah. One of your earliest memories. Was it stretched too? No, it was like a television size. It was like 4x3. And it looked like a VHS tape. It was like that blurry, fuzzy look that you would get from it looked like when I owned that movie on VHS, and it was like, there was an HD version of this out there that is widescreen. Why are you not using that? It was like they broadcast a VHS tape. I was so pissed. Next up is I used to call this the teeny bopper version of Pulp Fiction. So yeah, I stopped going to Fathom events after that. No, actually I didn't, because the next week, so this had to have happened in 2022 when I saw it, because I went to the 25th anniversary screening the following week of The Fifth Element. And I remember I was complaining to my friends saying, like, if we freaking go to see this damn thing in the theater from this Fathom event thing, and it is like in full screen and it looks like shit, I'm like, I'm walking out, I'm getting my money back, and that's all there is to it. No, it turned out they were showing like a 4K version. But I was like, what was up with the G.I. Joe thing? And I found out that the previous weekend to when I saw G.I. Joe, Fathom had shown The Thing, the John Carpenter The Thing, because I think it was just released in 4K, and they were going to supposedly show the 4K version. Turns out the version that they showed was like in the wrong aspect ratio, and it was like DVD quality. And it was like 2 movies in a row. So it was The Thing that they screwed up, and then they screwed up G.I. Joe. And I was like, if they screw up The Fifth Element, I'm walking out, I'm getting my money back. And the Fifth Element was fine. Anyway, I used to call this movie the teeny bopper version of Pulp Fiction. And that is Go. This is, what's his name? Doug Liman's first movie. Doug Liman directed The First Bourne Identity, Edge of Tomorrow, the remake of Roadhouse that just came out with Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm trying to think. Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. This is the movie that got him noticed, and it's essentially Pulp Fiction with like early 20-somethings. So it follows a bunch of characters around during one night. One story has to do with like a drug deal gone bad. One of them has to do with a bunch of actors that get kind of involved in a sting operation, like unbeknownst to themselves. What was the other one? The other one is about a group of characters that go to Vegas and end up getting like screwed over by a gangster at a strip club. And at the end, like as you watch the movie, all these characters like cross paths at different times. And like something that you thought didn't make sense in one story, when you see it from the other people's perspective, now it makes sense. It's really, really fun. It has a great cast too. It's got William Fichtner, who's in Armageddon. You've probably seen him in 5 million movies. Katie Holmes, Jay Moore, Sarah Polley. Sarah Polley has an Oscar now for, I think, what she wrote. She wrote a movie for last year's Oscars that won. I can't remember the name of it, though. Scott Wolf from Party of Five, and a whole bunch of other actors like James Duvall, Taye Diggs. I'm trying to think. Jane Krakowski is in it, too. It's funny. It has a great soundtrack. I actually have the soundtrack on my computer. Super fun movie. Really fast-paced. I watch this at least once a year. I might watch this tonight after the stream is over. But I absolutely love it. I went and saw that in the theater opening night, and then I liked it so much I grabbed a whole bunch of different groups of friends, and I was trying to get them to go see it. And we were going to go and see it with a bunch of friends of mine, and then we got pulled over because for some reason this person decided to drive around with their rear license plate just absolutely covered in mud so you couldn't see it. So a cop pulled us over, cleared up the mud, and was just kind of like, yeah, your license plates are expired. So that person got a ticket, and the cop said, you are not allowed to drive this car until you get that done. We're going to have it towed. And we basically ended up having to get my parents to come and pick us up and take us home. So I think that's what happened. Or she drove me back home and then she got it towed. The car got towed. I remember that. Next up, we have the Criterion. See, Criterion does all these different versions. Like, the packaging is never the same on any of these things. But I have the original Godzilla, or Gojira, as it was called in Japan. This one was directed by Ishiro Honda, and it comes in like this outer cardboard slip. And it has the movie in like a digipack. That's kind of cool shot of Godzilla when I think it's when he's dying. He's being killed by the oxygen destroyer. And it has a pop-up book thing in here. So you got the disc here, and when you open this up, Godzilla's head pops out, which is pretty awesome. And it also has a little booklet that has an essay about the movie. Who is it by? Jay Hoberman? Not sure who that is. Yeah, but this is the original black and white Godzilla that came out in the 50s. And I went and saw this at the theater. They were doing like a on-film screening at a theater down the street for me. The Music Box that I talk about all the time. And a friend of mine and I went to see it, and it's absolutely fantastic. It is kind of like this is probably one of the movies where Godzilla is like the scariest because there's no reasoning with him. He is there to destroy. This is caused by nuclear experimentation, mutated like some lizard, and it turned into this big creature. And it's just there to trash shit. And after this, they decided to start making Godzilla into like a hero and have him fight other giant monsters and stuff. But here, the movie is pretty scary, and it's all about like the dangers of, radioactive testing and shit like that. And it's actually pretty cool. The way they kill Godzilla at the end is kind of silly, but for the most part, it's pretty cool. This one is the one that does not have Raymond Burr inserted into it. This is the original uncut Japanese version, or untampered with Japanese version. It has a lot of extras on it as well. Pretty cool. I was glad to find that, and I found that at half-price books of all freaking places like that. Usually I would just find the digipack at half-price books, but the fact that it had everything with it and it was not super expensive shocked the hell out of me. Which leads us to the remake, Godzilla 3D. This is the second remake. This is the one that came out in 2013, I think it was, or 2014. And it's in 3D. It has a really cool lenticular cover. And this is part of the MonsterVerse that we've got right now. That, Godzilla and King Kong teaming up all the time now. This is the first movie in that franchise. And you can see that they were trying to set up some things. But the thing about this one is completely different from the other ones. Even the original, the Kong Skull Island movie. This one is like taking the subject matter like really seriously. It is not really trying to be cheesy. It's not trying to be funny. It starts off with a real tragic experience, and it kind of continues that way. And I like the way they keep the camera at ground level. A lot of people I know were complaining that like Godzilla's not enough in the movie. When you do see him, It's like you only see his feet and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, they're trying to keep the movie quote unquote grounded. So you see like Godzilla's, like there's a scene that happens at an airport and you're seeing Godzilla through the windows of one of the terminals, and all you really see is his feet stomping around. And they're trying to keep it like this is what people would see in this situation if this was really happening. How many people are going to be outside standing up there? No, you're going to be running. You're not going to be standing there looking at him. You're going to be on your feet and you're going to be trying to get the hell out of there and not die. So I like that fact. And then at the end when I can't remember what they're called, the NATOs or the Mutos, I think was what they called the creatures that were trying to attack Godzilla in this one. When that big fight they have at the end is when it takes place, it is pretty epic. So this is like one of those movies you either really love it or you really hate it. I really love it, and in 3D it's fantastic. That whole scene with those halo jumpers with the smoke diving through the clouds trying to jump Godzilla is absolutely fantastic. I need to take this label off of this freaking thing because it's ruining the whole effect of the lenticular cover. I think it's great. I really enjoyed it. And then we have another one of the Japanese Godzilla movies, and this one is probably my favorite outside of the original, and that is Godzilla 2000. So this I saw this in the theater, I think opening night with a couple of friends, and got the suit for Godzilla in this one, because at this point it wasn't a CGI effect, it was a dude in a suit. The Godzilla in this one was pretty cool looking. You can see him on the back. I really like the design. The creature he fights, I don't remember the name of it. They have its name on here because they have like they have these branded like symbols for each of the monsters in the Godzilla universe in Japan. And they have it here and I cannot read it. But it looks like it starts off looking like a UFO, and then it like slowly turns into this creature that like almost eats Godzilla at one point. It's pretty fun. The CGI effects are kind of a mixed bag because you can see the Japanese really didn't have a handle on how CGI worked yet. At that point in time, we kind of didn't either when this came out. We're still kind of figuring it out ourselves. But this has the Japanese and the US version on it. So one's dubbed, one is not. And it's super fun. I like this one a lot. It's pretty cool. I think we saw that at that offshoot theater down the street from Hawthorne Mall. It's not there anymore. Then we have one of the other Japanese movies. This is the only standalone one. The other one I have is they're all like combo packs of two Godzilla movies together. I talked about that in the box sets stream. This one's Godzilla versus the Smog Monster in the US. In Japan, it's called Godzilla versus Hedorah. So this one is all of the environmental message one. This is all about, pollution coming back to haunt us, and Godzilla has to fight the big pollution monster. It's silly, it's stupid, it's fun, for your typical Godzilla movie, but not my favorite. But I love Godzilla movies, so I had to have that. So here's one of the Paramount Presents line that you could get either from Paramount directly. I got this off of Amazon. And the way this works is these are burn-on-demand movies. And they give them kind of special packaging because I have another one in my collection that's Back to the Beach. I showed that one off in the B stream. And this is The Golden Child, the Eddie Murphy movie. He did this instead of Star Trek 4. He was going to be the scientist character that the Enterprise crew meets in the past because Eddie Murphy, it turns out he's a huge Star Trek fan. He wanted to be in the next movie, but he did not like the character they wrote for him. It wouldn't have been funny. So he said, nah, I'm going to do something else instead, and this is what he did instead. And then they rewrote the part and gave it to Catherine Hicks to play in Star Trek 4. This one is another movie that kind of pushes the boundaries of PG-13, if you ask me. It's like an action comedy with some martial arts in it, too. It's kind of like Big Trouble in Little China, almost. So Eddie Murphy is somebody that you hire to locate missing children. And he's asked to find a child who is a monk. Turns out this kid is special. This kid is, born to save the world kind of thing. And he has to go on this quest to save it because the kid's been kidnapped by these people who turns out are demons who are trying to kill him so they can take over the world. And it ends up being, it's funny. It's also really gory and really violent at times. Like, it's scared. Like, when I was a kid, this kind of like freaked me out a little bit. There's a scene where Eddie Murphy at the beginning. It's stupid, I know. But like for me, who was not watching horror movies regularly at the time, watching this, so Eddie Murphy goes to one of the areas where one of the kids he's been looking for has been found dead. And turns out the people that kidnapped this girl have something to do with the golden child kid being kidnapped as well. And he finds like this bowl of oatmeal on the stove, and he like starts messing around with it with a spoon because it's kind of out of place in the room. And he kind of pushes on the oatmeal with the spoon, and blood comes up from underneath. And I remember that just freaked the hell out of me. Mortal Kombat, what's up, Peter? Yep, ended up spending an hour in traffic trying to get home, and by the time I got home, it was already after 8:30, so I didn't have time to clean up the dome. I just threw a hat on and started streaming. But the special packaging of this from the Paramount Presents version is you open it up and it has the original theatrical poster, which is pretty cool. So if you like Eddie Murphy movies, you haven't seen it, Golden Child, I say check it out. So last month's pickup stream, I was talking about how I picked up the rest of the James Bond movies I needed to finish off my collection, the actual legit James Bond movies, not the unofficial ones like the original Casino Royale from the 60s or that piece of shit Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery in it. Those are not official Bond movies. Well, because I've been buying all these new Bond or the Bond movies that I needed to finish off the set, which I did, I've been watching them all now and I'm kind of out of order. One of my all-time favorite Bond movies is definitely GoldenEye. This is the first one with Pierce Brosnan. This is the movie that resurrected the franchise in the 90s. So in 1989, we had License to Kill. That was the second movie with Timothy Dalton in it. And I guess audiences did not like Timothy Dalton. I love Timothy Dalton as Bond. He's more of the book-accurate version of Bond. But audiences did not. And that movie bombed pretty hard. So they took like 6 years off to kind of retool everything and rethink it, recast. And I guess the original idea was that Timothy Dalton was going to play Bond again in this. But by the time they got around to making it, he was just kind of like, I've lost interest. I don't really care anymore. So they finally cast Brosnan, who they wanted to cast instead of Timothy Dalton originally, but he couldn't because he was making Remington Steele, the TV show. Anyway, the guy who directed this, what's his name? Martin Campbell previously made this movie called No Escape that you'll see in a later stream of mine. And while it was not a huge hit, visually, it's pretty impressive. Dramatically, it's pretty impressive. And when it comes to the action, it's filmed pretty well. So he was tapped to do the reboot of Bond, and he knocked it out of the park on his first try. And he reinvigorated the whole franchise. Like each one of these movies, as they were coming out, the four that Brosnan was in, each one made more money than the last. And it's all due to Martin Campbell, the way he set these up. Pierce Brosnan is perfect as Bond, I think. He's got the perfect amount of like seriousness and kind of campiness. I love the villain is an ex-Bond or an ex-00 agent, Sean Bean, who's great as the villain. The two Bond girls are great. You have Isabella Scorupco as like the good one, and she is not like this little whimpering woman who's always like, save me, James, save me. No, she's strong-willed. She's got a good head on her shoulders. There's times where she's doing things that Bond didn't think he should do in certain situations, and I love her. I love her character of it's not Xenia, it's Natalia. I love her character in this, and I think she's a great actress too. And then you also have Famke Janssen as Xenia Onatopp, who is like orgasming whenever she kills people, which is like the over-the-top cheesy version or part of the movie, which I love too. She's great. You can tell she's having a ton of fun. One of my all-time favorite Bonds. Great music. Some people will complain about it because it's like electronic, and it doesn't sound very Bond-esque, but it was the 90s. People were into techno, so it makes sense. I absolutely love it. When I started watching doing the Bond rewatch thing that I've been doing, this is the first one I watched. And then we have arguably my favorite Sean Connery Bond movie. I just watched this last night, and that's Goldfinger. This is the third Bond movie out of the entire franchise, the third one made, and this is the one where they finally got it right. Not to say that I'm not a big fan of Dr. No. I think it's good. It's just not great. It's kind of clunky. From Russia with Love is really, really good. But it was still, they had some areas to work out. Like, I don't mind that they did this, but in the first, like I talked about it last week, I think in the Fs, where the first like 20, 25 minutes of From Russia with Love, you spend with the villains to set them up. And then finally you catch up with Bond, and then the movie takes off. So they're still trying to figure out how the franchise was going to progress. This is the one where they got the formula right. You got Sean Connery is like perfect in this one. The stupid quips. You got Pussy Galore. in this one, which is like the most ridiculous Bond girl name ever, next to Holly Goodhead or Christmas Jones and stuff like that. The villain is great, Auric Goldfinger. The whole idea of irradiating the U.S.'s gold supply to kind of like ruin the economy is not like one of those we're going to take over the world kind of plots that you got later on during the franchise, but it's like just evil enough. And it's a lot of fun. It's really fast paced for something that came out in the early 60s, and I really, really like it. Still holds up. This is probably the one I watch the most when it comes to the Sean Connery movies. It's one of the, out of all the movies that Sean Connery made in the franchise, I only like 2 of them, and that's one of them. Mortal Kombat. Oh, Peter, how could you? How could you? I need to watch this again. I don't remember a whole lot about it, but my brother talked this one up so much that I went and bought it blind. I went and bought it without seeing it, and then I watched it. Excuse me. I watched it and I loved it, but I have not watched it since. And that is Gone Baby Gone. This is Ben Affleck's directorial debut, and of course, because he directed it, it's got his freaking brother Casey in it. But it also has Michelle Monaghan and Morgan Freeman and Ed Harris in it. And, oh, God, what's his name from the Beverly Hills Cop movies? John Ashton, who played the older cop with the mustache that always teams up with Axel Foley in the movies. I think this was it about a kidnapped child? Yeah, a bunch of cops are looking into the mysterious disappearance of a little girl, and they soon unravel a multitude of twists and turns where nothing is what it seems. Ultimately, they must risk everything, even their lives, in the search to find her. Yeah, I don't remember much about it. Like I said, I only saw this the one time, and I have not watched it since. This is the original copy that I bought way back in like 2009 or whatever it was, or 2008. So I need to watch it again to refresh my memory, but I really can't say much about it because I don't remember a whole lot. This, on the other hand, Grave of the Fireflies, it's sealed, but I have seen this multiple times. I've owned this on multiple formats. This is an anime that was made by Ghibli, Studio Ghibli, although I think a different company owns the rights to it, so it's not on the Ghibli collection. But this is all about like the aftermath of World War II in Japan and how it affects like someone that you wouldn't expect, like children. So it follows 2 homeless children who are on the street after their parents died during the World War II bombings, and them trying, like, they live with their aunt for a little while, but she eventually calls them a bunch of freeloaders and kicks them out. And it's this really sad story about these 2 kids just trying to fend for themselves on the streets. And it has one of the saddest freaking endings you'll ever see. Like, the reason I have not opened this to watch this is because I am afraid of dehydrating myself to death at the end of the movie by freaking crying my eyes out. Because every time I watch this, I end up crying. And I'm not a person that gets like emotionally into movies that way very often. But man, this movie just freaking pulls on them heartstrings. It's animated very well. It's poignant. It's freaking awesome. But man, is it an emotional ringer. Here's another 3D movie, and the movie works better in 3D than it does in 2D, which is why I have this. And that is Gravity. This is by, what's his name? Alfonso Cuarón, the guy who directed Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and what is it? Children of Men, and I'm trying to think. He did a couple of other things. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, this has Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. Essentially, it's a big cartoon. The only thing that you are seeing in this that is real are the faces of Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, or any other actor who you see their face. The rest of it is all CGI. The whole movie takes place in outer space. A bunch of astronauts, while they're working on the space telescope that's in orbit, their ship gets taken out by a debris storm. Like 2 satellites collided or something like that in orbit, and the debris orbited the Earth and just takes out the shuttle, takes out all the other people on the shuttle. Sandra Bullock's character gets thrown like away from Earth because of it. George Clooney luckily had like one of those jetpack things on that they use to maneuver in space, and comes and eventually rescues her. And it's about it's just basically the 2 of them trying to get back to Earth alive. And in that aspect, I think it's fantastic, because what can you do in space? There is nowhere to go. There is no one to ask for help. When you see Sandra Bullock flung into, away from Earth, you're essentially like, you're dead. I remember I saw the trailer for this, which was the whole scene of the original trailer was the scene of the debris destroying the ship and Sandra Bullock getting flung. And I was like, I'm guaranteeing you that's going to be the scariest movie I see this year to like the friends I was with, because I was like, what do you do in that situation? You are dead. If George Clooney's character didn't have that jetpack, she'd be freaking dead. There's no coming back from that. And the whole movie, while I don't think those spacesuits can take the amount of damage that Sandra Bullock puts them through, I do find it a very enjoyable, tense movie. I like it quite a bit. It's beautiful to look at. There's some really artistic moments, like where Sandra Bullock she gets inside the Russian space station that's in orbit, and she takes her suit off for like the first time, since the beginning of the movie. And like, what's the first thing she does while she's like in 0G without the spacesuit on? She kind of like curls up into a ball and almost goes into the fetal position. And I was just kind of like, that's a beautiful shot. I mean, technically it is. And then the final moment, like when she gets back to Earth and the music that they play, when you see like she's made it and she survived and all that, and she's triumphant and all that, the music they play just freaking amplifies it. It's awesome. I love it. I watch this like once a year, and I try to watch it in 3D every time. It's fantastic. I love it. It has a great soundtrack. And then we have this. So, I love those animated DC movies that go direct to video. I have a ton of them. Here we have Green Lantern, Emerald Knights. This one is an anthology. It's a bunch of like short stories that have to do with the Green Lantern Corps, not just specifically like Hal Jordan. I can't remember the names. So it deals with one of them deals with Hal Jordan, one's Kilowog, Sinestro, the Corps in general. I think Guy Gardner appears in one of them. And I love Green Lantern. It's like my favorite comic book characters, Green Lantern, any of them, because I like the idea of your imagination being your superpower. I think that's fantastic. I absolutely love it. So I absolutely had to buy every single one of these Green Lantern movies that came out. The only one I don't own is the live action movie, because that kind of sucked. So this one, I've watched this one maybe twice. It's pretty fun. The one I really like is Green Lantern First Flight. So this is like the origin story of Hal Jordan. And he's played by Chris Maloney from Law & Order SVU. And he does a pretty good job of playing the character. So it deals with like him getting the ring, going to Oa, getting trained, meeting Kilowog and all that, and having to deal with Sinestro going rogue and creating the yellow ring. And it's pretty fantastic. I like this one quite a bit. It kind of like glosses over the origin part and just deals with the whole Oa thing for the most part. So it's like in the first 3 minutes, it's all about like him getting the ring, and then all of a sudden we're off to Oa, and it stays there the rest of the movie. But it's pretty fantastic. That's my favorite of the animated Green Lantern movies. I think you're one that told me that this movie was super emotional. Which one? Grave of the Fireflies or Gravity? You cry at her puppy commercials. It's pretty emotional. Which one are you guys talking about? Gravity or Grave of the Fireflies? Next up we have, I'm surprised this has not been released other in this format elsewhere, but it took forever for this to come out, and I was not going to pass it up because this is the way the movie needed to be. And it is Grindhouse. Gravity? Yeah, Gravity's rad. I love it. Like that whole scene of her like climbing out of the water at the end, and like you see her like touching mud for the first time in like a long time, and the way the music just kind of swells and all that, and you see her like stand up and like walk away doing that whole like I survived thing. It gets me every time. So when Grindhouse was released theatrically, it was I think 3.5 hours long total. It was 2 full-length movies, 2 90-minute movies linked together by a bunch of trailers. It was like you were going to an old Grindhouse movie theater to watch a double feature. And you got like trailers for fake movies like Machete and Thanksgiving and what was it called? Hush or no? What was it called? Or something? Oh. It's like a one-word title. And it's like If or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But when the movie came out on home video, they split it up. So they released the two movies separately that were in this. They released Death Proof, which was directed by Quentin Tarantino, and then they released what's the second one? The first one called Planet Terror, which is directed by Robert Rodriguez separately. And they each kind of got like an extended cut on home video, whatever. But they left out all the fake trailers and the fake like concession stand stuff that they shot. I saw Grindhouse in the theater opening night. Me and a friend went and saw it, and we both absolutely loved it. So the two movies, you get Planet Terror first, the one by Robert Rodriguez, which is all about like this zombie plague that's taking over. It turns everyone into big, bubbly, blistery monsters and stuff. And what's her name from Charmed? Rose McGowan is like a stripper who gets caught up in it all, and she loses her leg, and someone sticks a machine gun with a rocket launcher in the stump, and she ends up using it to shoot everybody. She's like spinning on her butt with the gun out and blowing everybody away. She uses the rocket launcher and shoots the ground with it and launches her up in the air so she can jump over a fence. It is one of the craziest freaking things you've ever seen. It has a great cast too. Not Bill Paxton. I know Bruce Willis was in it. Oh God, I cannot remember anybody that was in this. Rose McGowan, Freddie Rodriguez, sorry. Michael Biehn, that's what I was thinking of. Jeff Fahey, Josh Brolin, Marley Shelton, and Bruce Willis is like uncredited. And it is silly and cheesy and funny and gross, but it's a lot of fun. And then you got like a whole bunch of fake trailers in between while they're preparing the second movie. And the second one is the one everybody seems to hate, and that is just forgot it too. Death Proof, which has Kurt Russell and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Rosario Dawson, and what is her name? The stunt woman, Zoe Bell, who was Uma Thurman's stunt woman in the Kill Bill movies, and she wanted to get into acting. So Quentin Tarantino, since he worked with her on Kill Bill, was like, "Okay, I got the perfect thing for you. You're going to play a bunch it's going to be his story's about a bunch of stunt women who are just off of a movie shoot who like spend the day together instead of being on set, and they end up getting stalked by this person who is played by Kurt Russell, he's used to be a stunt person too. He was like a stunt driver, and he uses this souped up car of his to murder people with, and he gets his kicks that way. And there's this amazing freaking chase scene where Zoe Bell is doing like this thing where she is strapped to the hood of the car and she's trying to recreate an action scene from a movie she likes, and then Kurt Russell decides to like interfere and try to kill everybody, and she is stuck on the hood while they're trying to outrun Kurt Russell's character, and she is screaming and crying, and like she keeps on like almost falling off the car. It is freaking amazing, and it's like shot in a really cool way. Has a great soundtrack like all Quentin Tarantino stuff does. Absolutely love it, and I don't think people were prepared for this. It bombed at the theater big time. I think they were planning on making a whole bunch of movies in this series. And like, I don't know if it was the fact that it was 3.5 hours long or the fact that it was like two movies stuck together and people just didn't want to sit in the theater for that long. Maybe theater owners didn't want the movie to be that long so they could sell more tickets, and they didn't have as many screenings as they should have, kind of thing. But it bombed hard. And I think that's why the Weinsteins split the movies up on home video so you can see them individually and all that. And then eventually they put out the whole thing at once, which is what I was waiting for. I refused to buy any of them separately because that's not the way I originally saw it. So eventually this came out. I don't even think that the Weinsteins released this. No, it says Dimension did, but I don't remember it being through them. I bought it through something else. But I refused to buy it until it was in its complete form, and it finally came out. But they have not re-released this like on 4K or anything, which kind of sucks. And you can open it up, and it has like posters for the two movies. I absolutely love it. It was a cool idea. I wish we got more. Josh Brolin. Fireflies was sad, yeah. Yeah, Firefly, man. That's why I haven't opened it. I refuse to watch it again because it's gonna be freaking Waterworks. And then the last two movies I'm gonna talk about are two Marvel movies and two of my favorite Marvel movies. First up, we have Guardians of the Galaxy. So this was the black sheep, I guess, of the Marvel lineup when it comes to the MCU. This is the one that nobody knew why Disney was going Marvel was going in this direction with the franchise. So like at this point, we've had Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Captain America, Thor, an Avengers movie. And I think we already gotten second Captain America and Iron Man 3. And then out of nowhere, we got an outer space comedy. What does this have to do with like the overarching, MCU thing building up to Thanos? Well, without the Guardians of the Galaxy being connected to Thanos in some ways, you probably wouldn't have had Thanos for Endgame and Infinity War and all that, because this has to do with one of Thanos' adopted daughters joining a superhero team. And it's really, really fun. Like, James Gunn had never directed anything big like this before. He had done 2 movies at that point. He had done Slither, which I love. It's a fantastic, funny horror movie. And he'd also done, what was it called? Super, which I couldn't stand. Which had the dude from The Office in it, the one with the glasses that was like a tattletale. I can never remember that guy's name. But I could not stand that movie. But when he was announced for this, I was just like, that guy has not made anything that I would say is successful. Why are you going to give him $200 million to make this? Well, when you watch the movie, and I saw it not the opening weekend, but like the week after with a couple of people that I work with, and like we had tears in our eyes. We were laughing so hard at some parts. Like, this movie is hysterically funny. And I love all the characters. You got Quill, you've got Gamora, you've got... Jesus Christ. Rocket was probably my favorite character. One of my top 5 characters in the Marvel Universe. Groot and Drax the Destroyer. Batista, I remember when they cast Batista in this, and I was just kind of like, are you serious? And he ended up being great. But I already knew Zoe Saldana from the Star Trek movies. And I thought it was really cool that Bradley Cooper was like, I'm just going to be the voice of this raccoon character. I don't really give a shit. You don't need to put me in the movie proper. And even like the fact that Vin Diesel was just doing the voice of Groot, and all he says is Groot, but it's all about the tonation that he uses, which I think was pretty cool. The villain, it has the same villain problem as most of the Marvel movies at this time did, where they're just kind of there, and they don't really have a really big motivation. They're just kind of there to be evil and have someone for the good guys to fight. But I really liked this movie. I loved all the characters, and I could not wait for the sequel. This is 3D, by the way. Not how I saw it in the theater. But I did see the sequel in the theater, and this is the Best Buy limited edition Steelbook 3D version that I had to order off their website and go and pick up, but it did not come with like a slip or anything, which I thought was kind of stupid. But yeah, I love that it has the do not touch or do not push button with Baby Groot on it, and he's obviously going to push it. And yeah, it comes with the movie on Blu-ray, and there's an extras disc, and it also has the movie in 4K. So actually, this should be going on my 4K wall. But it has the 3D version of it as well. I forgot that this had the 4K in it. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. This one, I think, is way better than the first. I know this is going to be... I'm in the minority on this, but I think this is one of my top 3 Marvel movies because of the story that's going on in it with the parenting. So I'd never really watched any of the this is gonna be like a YouTube thing. I never watched any of the Nostalgia Critic stuff. I could not stand that guy. I thought his reviews were annoying. I can't stand him personally. I think he's just really annoying, really obnoxious, and he comes off as really arrogant. But there was the Nostalgia chick who ended up getting her own channel. I do not remember what her name is. But she did a review on this, like an in-depth review of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And everything that I thought when I was watching the theater, she basically articulated in that video. And it's like, about Peter, why can't he get the girl? Like in these movies, the immature asshole hero character, like Top Gun specifically, always gets the girl. He didn't get the girl in this. Because he still has growth to do. He's not like a good person yet. At the beginning of the movie, he takes issue of Gamora pulling out a sword, pulling out a big gun, because he's like, oh, I thought guns are supposed to be my thing. And she's usually using a sword. And she's just like, well, I thought I needed a gun for this particular, scenario that we're in right now. And he's just like, oh, okay. And he like takes an ego hit because of that. And it's like, you're a fucking man-child, dude. And also when it deals with what's going on with Rocket, and how it kind of deals with Yondu at the same time, like how they're horrible, how Yondu was a horrible parent to Peter, and how everybody mistreats Rocket and all that kind of stuff. Like everything, just the way everything came together in it. I thought it was like, it wasn't trying to be a superhero movie. It was trying to tell stories about people instead of just being about action and stuff blowing up and special effects and stuff. The movie, don't get me wrong, the movie has a ton of that in there. But like, I like the story. I like the characters. Maybe like the characters even more. And like the last moment with Rocket crying, watching the Arrow fireworks that are honoring Yondu's sacrifice at the end. I mean, it was awesome. It's a perfect movie. Absolutely love it. And I watched this twice in the theater, and I have watched it probably every year since I started buying it. Never noticed that it was a 4K in here, and I'm freaking it's because the damn digital code thing is covering it up. I'm thinking it's a DVD or something. I'm dumb. Anyway, my like I said, top 3 Marvel movies right there. Absolutely love it. Great storytelling. Yep. James Gunn nailed it, no doubt. Yep. Had no idea that the movie was going to be that good, the first one. And like the moment it ended, I was just kind of like, I need more of this. I need more. Where's part 2? Give it to me right now. And don't get me wrong, part 3 is freaking fantastic. That's another movie that pushes the rating that I did not expect Disney to go through with. That movie has some of the most violent shit going on in it. And even it's like the first F-bomb they drop in a Disney movie. That's kind of crazy. Anyway, that is it for tonight. I will be back tomorrow, hopefully with a shaved head, for my monthly pickup stream. It will probably be a shorter one as well. I did not buy a whole lot this month. I have a few movies and a few games. It'll probably be less than an hour, so it'll be a quick in and out scenario. So perfect for Friday night, so you can get on with the rest of your evening if you're planning on joining me at 8:30 p.m. tomorrow Central. And then on Saturday, I have my DVD I can't talk. I need to get something to eat. On Saturday is my Dungeons and Dragons stream on Twitch. So go to my Twitch channel. I'll put it in the chat. That is my Twitch channel. So we're going to start streaming probably around 7 p.m. Central, and the stream usually goes on for about 4 hours. We are dealing with the aftermath of a bunch of revelations that the characters in the party, all were told about where their personal path, like what they're searching for. This is what they need to do to solve it. Like they got all the information they need. Now they just need to act on it. So it's going to be a pretty epic episode because I don't even know where the hell they're going to go with it. I threw all the information they need at them, and now it's up to them to choose how they take it and how to deal with it. And it's going to be pretty awesome. So 7 p.m. Central on that Twitch channel. Check that out. And then also don't forget, I've been recording new episodes for my podcast. The movie is starting with my buddy Jeremiah. Last night we recorded an episode with, not last night, Tuesday night, we recorded an episode with Peter here, Waves and Games. And I'm not going to ruin what movie it is, but if you want to head over to that channel, there's the address. And once we record the episode we're recording next week, I'm going to start releasing the episodes every other week. And keep an eye out for that because that has all the original 6 seasons of the podcast. And hopefully maybe by the end of June, we'll start releasing episodes for season 7. So keep an eye out for that. So I will talk to you all later. Have a good night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Chris from Midlife Crisis Media out. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe out there.